Hi there. Today, I would like to work through our first 1040 together in a lab chat. I've replicated a W-2 and a student loan interest form, and we're going to take a look at those source documents and then complete a tax return. So let's pop over and take a look at where you're going to get the documents, which is under Chapter 3, Preparing Your Taxes. Right now we're working on LabChat number 1, and it says, please print out or have easily accessible Indigo Smith's fact set and a 2018 Form 1040 and Schedule 1. And in the lecture, I showed you where to get that on the irs.gov website. So make sure that you can go do that. And we're going to be using 2018, as I said a number of times in the lecture, because that is the year that the book has published the tax return and the tax tables for. So we need a Form 1040. And we need, I'm just going to bring up 2. And then we need a Form Schedule 1. Okay, so we've got a Schedule 1 here. We've got a 1040 from 2018 here. And we're basically going to go get our fact set and fill these out together. So here's Indigo Smith's fact set. And that is her W-2 and her student loan interest statement. So let's just go first and look at this and see what pieces of data you think we need to pull out. So we're going to use this to fill out a 1040. We're going to use $12,000 for standard deduction. I talked about that at great length in the lecture. It's $12,000 if you're single, $24,000 if you're married filing joint. Everybody gets it. And the only time you would use itemized deductions is if they were greater than the standard deduction. We're going to use our tax tables from page 104. I think it's also screen number 7 on your PowerPoints. And you're gonna fill it in by hand. I'm gonna obviously be doing it on the computer, but it's best for you to practice by printing it and doing it by hand. Okay, here's the 2 documents. Her student loan interest deduction. Here's her student loan interest statement. Goes on Schedule 1 as an adjustment for AGI. And on the 1040, it will be subtracted from line 6 to get line 7. And you will know what all this means because you've already watched the lecture. So this is the second time you've heard this. Okay, so here's Indigo. This is her address and her social security number. That should all be completed on the 1040. So let's go ahead. And I can't remember what her zip code or her zip code is this, and her social security is this. So let's go ahead, get the rest of that data in there. And it's not copying over, so I'm just going to put in whatever for social. Okay. Nothing else you need to do here. You do want to indicate that she's got full year healthcare coverage. There was still some penalties left in 2018. We don't deal with that at all anymore, but just go ahead and check that. And I don't want to contribute to the presidential election campaign. Okay, so what I'm going to be filling in here, I'm going to fill in line 1 because she's got some wages. I know that she's got an adjustment on the Schedule 1 for her student loan interest, so I know I'm going to subtract that number between line 6 and 7. I know what her standard deduction is on line 8. And I know that I can complete the math to line 10 by subtracting lines 8 and 9 from line 7. And then we're going to put in the amount of federal income tax that she had withheld in line 16 and compare that to the amount of her total tax. And the difference will be either a refund or an amount due. So I'm going to go ahead and pull her data. Let's just look at what we need. Here's her W-2. These are her gross wages. That's going to go in line 1. Here's the amount of federal income tax that she had withheld. That's going to go under payments. From the lecture, if you remember, here's her Social Security and her health insurance, Medicare. That is 6.2 and 1.45%. And then she also lives in Montana, so she's got state income tax she needs to pay in. So let's go ahead and start getting some of these numbers into the tax return. And then we'll look down here, and the student loan interest is an adjustment for AGI. So that's going to go on her Schedule 1. And it looks like she paid $752.37 in interest. And that she's still got principal left of $15,119. This is informational only. It's not relevant to doing the tax return. So go ahead. You've got the facts set up. I'm going to pull it down. And let's go ahead now and start on her Schedule 1, because we need to get that number to pull into the 1040. So her name is Indigo Smith. And Social Security, again, I don't have the exact right number. I'm just kind of winging it. And there's 2 parts to it. As you remember from the lecture, there's the part where you have additional income items. And she doesn't have a farm or unemployment or any of those things, but she does have something to subtract from her income, and that is her student loan interest deduction. And we're not going to use dollars in tax returns. We're not going to use pennies in tax returns, just dollars. So $752, and then we come down here and it says add lines 23 through 35. So I come down here and that number is $752. If she'd made like an IRA contribution of $1,000, that would go here, and then that number would be $1,752. But she just had a little student loan interest deduction. That goes here, this goes here, and I'm essentially now done with that. I'm going to use this number when I start working on my 1040. Okay, so her gross wages come up, wages, salaries, tips from the W-2. Go ahead, look up that number and insert it. Did everybody see where that came from? Then there's no interest, no dividends, no distributions from a pension, no Social Security benefits, and it tells me total income, add lines 1 through 5. And if you had any additional amount from Schedule 1, you would put it in here, but we don't. So lines 1 through 5B, same number. Okay, great. Now, line 7, adjusted gross income. If you have no adjustments, then just enter the same number from line 6. Otherwise, subtract Schedule 1, line 36. Schedule 1, line 36, subtract that from her total income and enter that number here. Subtract her Schedule 1 number, all of her adjustments for AGI, and it looks like her AGI is 87,228. Line 8, standard deduction. If you forgot what it was, you can see it over here. I've told you what it was in the lecture. You've got it on the PowerPoint slides. She's single. Go ahead and add that, and then come down and complete the math, please, on line 10. I'll give you a couple seconds to do that. Oops, sorry, I'm on the wrong line. 75,228. All right, now we've got to go calculate the tax. And I'm going to jot down that taxable income number of 75,228. And I'm going to go to my PowerPoint slides, and I'm going to pull up my tax tables, which I believe were on line 7, or you can go to a page 109 in the book and you've got the tax tables there. So either or. And again, we're using the 2018 numbers. These are just for illustration so you can compare and contrast. And it looks to me like she is going to be in her taxable income is 75,228. So that puts her in the marginal tax bracket of 22%, highest marginal tax bracket. Now, if you remember from the lecture, the whole amount of the taxable income isn't taxed at 22%, just the amount from here to here. So the first 95.25 is taxed at 10%. Then the second chunk, the difference between 38,700 and 95.26, that second chunk is taxed at 12%. And then this third chunk between this base number and her taxable income of 75,228 is taxed at 22%. So obviously we need to write an algebraic equation. So I'm going to move this over so I can refer to it. I'm going to open an Excel spreadsheet, and I'm going to show you how what the algebraic statement looks like. And I'd like you to try and it's a little bit larger. I'd like you to try and write it yourself if you think you can. So you've got the tax table in front of you. You know what her taxable income is. So tax equals the first $9,525 is taxed at 10%. Then that next chunk, 38,700 is the top end of that bracket, and 95.26 is the lower. So the difference is 29,714. Or 174, excuse me, times 12%. And the way that I got this number, 29,174 equals from the tax table. Okay. The last part is her last bit of income is in that third bracket, And that is the difference between her taxable income and that bracket. So 36,527 times 22%. This number $36,527. Her taxable income was $75,228, and we moved into that third bracket. You can see the lower amount is $38,701. So just go check that you know how to calculate those numbers. Let me just check them one more time. 75,228. 36,527, and then the 29,174. I'm just going to double check that one more time. Great. So you can see again, remember from the lecture, the progressive tax, 10% for the first little bit, 12% for the next chunk, 22% for the next chunk. And it would just keep going up if she was higher income. So now I'm just going to do the math. So tax equals $953. Again, remember no pennies, so just round up. 95.25 times 0.1, $953. Finish the math here. So I've completed what the tax is for each of these chunks. And of course it's getting, progressively higher, 10, 12, 22%. So just go back and check those numbers and then finish the equation. And that's going to be her tax bill. We're going to go back and put that number in the tax return. So I think that the total tax equals $12,490. And I can already tell by looking at this, she's gonna owe some tax. Okay, so remember this number, 12,490. That is her tax, $12,490. She doesn't have any credits, so 0 on line 12, subtract line 12 from line 11, so 12,490 minus 0 is 12,490. She doesn't have any other taxes, so add lines 13 and 14, same number comes down. Federal income tax withheld from Form W-2. Where do you get that? Go back, take a peek at her W-2. What number are we using for her FIT withholding? Right here. And you can see she's going to owe some money, quite a bit of money. So she had $6,415 withheld. Nope. So she owes, or no, I'm sorry, then it says add lines 16 and 17. And is she gonna get a refund, or is she gonna owe? She's gonna owe, subtract line 18 from line 15. And I could see that because she paid in much less than she was supposed to. So that basically is a simple tax return. Now, I do want to show you, we're going to do one more. There's one more lab chat. We're going to practice doing this. You'll absolutely need to be able to do this for the test and the homework. I do want to show you one more quick thing. On a W-2, you might wonder, why are there all these different kinds of wages? Sometimes you'll see, for example, like a number here might be less than the Social Security and the HI wages. The reason that that would happen, so here you can see those numbers are 84,980, and the wages that were taxed for the 6.2% for Social Security and the 1.45 for HI are higher. There are certain things that the IRS lets us put away for our future and not pay income tax on now. So if you contribute to a 401k at your work, or you contribute to a health savings account through your employer, those wages are not susceptible to federal or state income tax. You still have to pay Social Security and Medicare on them, but not FIT or SIT. So sometimes when you look at W-2s, those numbers may be different. Just want you to be aware of that. That's not the case here. It was a very simple situation. She had the same numbers, but just be aware of that situation. So I hope this was helpful. I hope you're starting to feel comfortable in filling out a tax return. And you've got one more to do before you do your homework. So good luck, and hope you enjoy it. Bye.